What happens when conflict takes away certainty? When markets close, food becomes scarce, and daily life is reduced to survival.
And what happens when a young person who was just 16 years old at the time decides not to wait, but to act?
Hello and welcome to BiteTheTalk. I'm your host, Mark Gashagwa.
And I'm Stephanie Sargent.
Welcome to Bite the Talk, a podcast hosted by the Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition, known as GAIN. Join us as we discuss all things food systems related: diets, nutrition, environment, health, you name it. Meet fascinating people working in the nutrition and food community. Tune in to Bite the Talk and let's explore together.
Today's episode is not just about food systems. It's about resilience, it's about creativity, and the power of youth in the face of crisis.
Exactly, because sometimes transformation doesn't happen in policy spaces or in boardrooms. It happens in the kitchen.
And today we are honored to be joined by someone whose journey embodies exactly that.
Our guest today is Ida Iyasu, an Act for Food youth leader from Ethiopia. She's incredibly passionate about food system transformation, community health, and youth-led action. Her journey did not begin in a conference room. It began during a time of war in her community.
And this is amazing, Steph. Can you believe it? At just 16 years old, during a siege in Ethiopia that limited access to food, Ida began experimenting with cooking, finding ways to create meals with whatever ingredients she could find. That curiosity turned into action. She began supporting malnourished children in hospitals, volunteered in internally displaced people's camps, and helped establish a vegetable garden that improved diets for families in the camp.
Amazing. She also launched a fundraising initiative to support school meals and established a youth volunteer group of around 40 young people. She has represented youth voices on global platforms like UNFSS Plus 4 and the Rockefeller Foundation's event, Nourishing the Future.
Ida, it's such a big honor and a pleasure to welcome you to BiteTheTalk. It's good to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm really glad to be here as well.
Thank you, Ida. I'd love to start at the beginning, from the genesis of it all, not from where you are right now, but from where it all started. You mentioned that your journey began during a time of conflict and war. Can you take us back to that moment? What was it like, and what led you to start cooking?
Okay. So when the war first began, it was a siege, and it was in the northern part of Ethiopia. So my life literally turned upside down. I had displaced from my home. I had lost many family members and even classmates. School was closed, so everything was shattered, and I was definitely just 16 years old at that time, and I was very confused of what was going on in my life and how it was really unfair for me, not only for me, but also for my family and my community, those who are around me, to face this kind of situation, because that is the last thing we would like in our lives to happen. So during that time, my passion for everything literally died. I had many hobbies before that. I had many things I liked doing, but during that time, I literally became, I don't know, hopelessness is a very negative word, but my life literally became very uncertain. So I had lost my passion for everything. But I had this moment even in that kind of dark times, in our family, dinner was a very lovely time, even during that time. So we would gather to eat dinner and whatever food we had access to. So it was actually during that time that I started to value food very much, because I saw what it could mean. And that was when I started being interested in cooking, because I loved how people were being happy when I cooked dinner and when they liked the dinner. So I started experimenting with just the ingredients we had and trying to cook different recipes. And at some point, it became a very interesting hobby of mine. and I had a cookbook which I wrote recipes in, and I still have it. So that's when I started cooking as a hobby and something that kept me going on.
It's incredibly powerful how something as simple as cooking can become something even bigger. Ida, please tell us, how did that personal experience turn into action beyond yourself and into helping others?
Okay. So I remember, I think there were many moments I definitely remember, but there was this specific experience that led me into this kind of field and this kind of work. So I remember one day I went to visit malnourished children in a hospital, and me and my family took food for them. So when I entered the hospital, it was horrific. It was something I had never seen in my life before. It was very malnourished children with their malnourished mothers, and there was bed shortage in the hospital. So children and the mothers were sleeping literally on floors and hallways. So the hospital was just full of people barely trying to keep themselves alive. So that was when when I, for the first time after the war started, I felt that the situations were not unfair to me because I saw the extent unfairness could really go to. And that was when I started. Um, I decided I should help people. Like, I was okay compared to them. So I need to help people as well. So that was when I asked the people, the hospital workers, where those malnourished children went to after they were treated. So they told me they were moved to a camp because they were internally displaced people. And I went to that camp, which is when I officially began my journey in food systems. So in that camp, I established vegetable gardens just somehow to improve their nutrition and their diets. And I involved with the mothers, the children themselves. So we worked together, we spent our days together, and we did everything together in that regard. So that's that was a very personal and experience and a very defining moment of my life that led me from being uncertain about my life and kind of losing hope in my life into being hopeful with joy and also satisfaction in what I was doing. So that was a moment.
Now, Steph, there's some very nice things that Ida has mentioned. She talked about mothers, she talked about children, and we know these are the most vulnerable when it comes to conflict and war. And Ida, just not from a policy perspective, but from what you've seen, when conflict hits, what happens to food and the people? What can you say to us that?
Once the conflict hits, just the day the conflict hits, there's an immediate change and shift that happens. And I remember the day the conflict hit. It was in midnight, and then the next day, the first thing that came to our mind was we have to buy food, and I'm sure everyone was thinking the same. So I remember my mother and my aunt went to buy food, and when they came back, they were telling us the prices had literally tripled in just a day. And so, like, this shows people have lost the value their money had, and they could buy less with what they had. Markets were disappearing and things like that. So there was this immediate shift. And this is just in the beginning, in the few days of the war. But as it continues and as it goes on, it becomes people have to adjust their lives because they are expecting for the worst to come. So when they adjust their lives, it begins by eating smaller portions, and then it continues to skipping meals, first adults and then children, and eventually it is to extreme malnutrition and also hunger. So conflict and war doesn't just take away food, but also just takes away a complete control over our lives, which is something people need to have in their lives to continue with hope and dignity as well.
Thank you for sharing, Ida. It's very clear that to you, this is more than work. It's obviously personal. Can you share with us what those experiences taught you about food, just beyond nutrition?
Yeah. So for me, food was just something people need to survive. It was something someone supplies and others demand it. So that's how it was food for me. But after the war, I saw that it's also about dignity and the basic thing that people actually work for. And it's when we have it's when we have control our lives. It's when we choose the food we eat. It's when we we have access to the foods we want, that we keep living and we have hope for everything else, to do anything else other than that, and to achieve our dreams and things like that. So if we lose that basic thing, and if we don't if you see that the reality has altered and that's not the case anymore, and we don't have control even on the smallest thing in our lives, I think that's when hopelessness begins. So that's exactly why I believe food is much about dignity than it is about need and supply or demand. And it's also, I have seen and I'm still seeing that recovering from the war takes time than the war itself. So the war was just 2 years in my area, but it's been 4 years now since it has ended. But recovering is taking much more time than the war itself. So that's exactly why I now connect food to dignity, fairness, and stability.
Ida, I like your take on this. You're talking about dignity even in food systems, and we know in conflict-prone areas or where conflict has taken place, sometimes this is not the easiest thing to find. Um, Now, how have these experiences, Ida, how have they shaped the way you think about food systems transformation? I know you're an incredible leader, so please share that with us. How have these experiences shaped the way you think about food systems transformation?
Okay, so I think the major thing that I changed and that I believe now, um, after all those experiences, is the fact that is my approach about problem solving in food systems. So my approach now, which is also my principle in doing any work in food systems, is um, when I'm doing some project or any work, I think those who are going to do the work with me should be those who are affected by the problem the most, because I believe it's those who are affected the most that can be the most responsible as well for the work. And this has been my I think this has been my principle for as long as I have been in the food systems. Using this principle, I'm also doing my actual food school nutrition campaign right now. And I think I decided to do my campaign in a way that is more suitable for our reality, which is people affected by hunger, affected by malnutrition. So that's actually when I decided to have fruit gardens in different schools, in as many schools as possible. So I saw that children in the school were the most affected by the malnutrition and hunger, and I thought that planting fruits, and after they grow up, they will be consumed by the children themselves. So I am now involving the children themselves in the planting process, in every process of it. And I can see that they are the most responsible for it because they know they will be used by them as well. So I think that's how my approach to problem solving in food systems changed after my experiences.
Thank you, Aida, for sharing that. And I like Steph. I like the fact that she's, targeting children and students. And we usually say these are people who are going to be the future leaders, and they are our treasure. So Aida, good work on focusing on the children and the students. Now, I want to learn a bit more about, the fun part of this food. I mean, you have a cookbook, you have a couple of recipes, maybe many recipes. Uh, what what food did you enjoy growing up? What food can you just think about and then you say, oh my God, this was such a nice recipe. And then after you've answered, maybe Steph will share hers.
Okay, so I think even though I have a cookbook, I still have one favorite food, which is one my grandmother makes. So it is called shiro. It is a very traditional food recipe, and it's made of peas and spices blended together and then cooked in hot water and eaten by injera, which is also a traditional staple food of Ethiopians. So I believe personally my grandmother makes the best shiro, and it's one of my very favorite foods. And even during the war, that was kind of the food we ate very frequently. So I also have memories of it. I also have memories of my childhood when my grandmother makes it, and that's still my very favorite food. And that was also how I started to learn how very healthy foods can also be tasty, which is now I work towards how to make foods healthy and tasty at the same time.
Wow. Um, Steph, I do like injera with some beef. I've had it. We have a restaurant here I can recommend to you, but I like injera, like Ida.
I love it too, Mark. I remember going to Ethiopia for the UNFSS +4 with Ida and absolutely indulging on injera and Ethiopian food. So thank you for sharing your culture with me, Ida. I absolutely loved it. So, Ida, let's move on to solutions. Can you tell us a little bit about what young people are currently doing today and, how young people are stepping up in their communities?
Okay, so I think young people are building local solutions that can be used by farmers, suppliers, and even consumers. So they're also being creative and rethinking how food systems should be in crisis or in any situation that they are in, and trying to make the most of it. So, and making it impactful. And how I think youth are a very core connectors. They connect communities with information, with aids, with markets, with different things. So I also believe that I think it's also because mainly youth are the generation in between the old and also the new. So they know the realities and the current realities we are in. They know what future needs could be and might be. And they also know the tools we have right now and that are available. So I think that's what makes them the most incredible connectors and effective connectors as well.
Fantastic. I mean, good to know where the youth sit within the society, and also especially when it involves food. You talked about impact, Ida, and I'd like to know what kind of impact are you seeing from your work? I know you are involved with a couple of things here and there. You're such a wonderful leader. What kind of impact are you seeing? Whether they're big changes or small changes?
Okay, so I remember when I held my first session with in one school, I was asking the children what they knew about nutrition. What do they think nutrition is? So they knew nothing. So they were just trying to guess. And now, halfway through the journey, when I ask them something, they start to give me good answers. They know what nutrition is. They know how the nutrition should be. And I have been teaching and trying to teach them uh, about how we can make a very healthy and nutritional food from just the ingredients we have. So now when I ask them something, they give me a very incredible answer. So I have seen that I'm teaching them and they are learning well, and they know more now, and they're more attached to their environment, to their health and everything. So I think that's what I have seen my work has been doing.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's, any change within the food systems transformation, or rather any change geared towards transforming food systems is something that we appreciate, Steph. And just talking about change and keeping up with that thing, Steph, you've heard about the conflict that is happening in the Middle East. I mean, it's not pretty. People are suffering from that. Businesses are hurting. Just the other day, I had a report about the possibility of fuel prices going up, and that can easily impact the cost of food throughout, since that's a key ingredient in the value chains. Ida, if you could change one thing in the world, uh, to respond to conflict and food insecurity, what will it be?
So I think I have also said a little about it earlier, but I think I would um, I would I would love to change how people are placed within the food system. So usually, even in politics and everything else, it kind of gets forgotten that food is also about stability and dignity. So I'd love to change the perception of how people are placed in food systems, not just as consumers, but also as beings who have to protect their dignity, their stability, and have control over their lives. So I think that's the one thing I would love to change.
Thank you for that answer, Ida. And what do you believe that young people like yourself need to support the work that you're doing?
I believe young people need more representation in decision making because it's about their future that is being decided, and definitely they should be part of the planning, the talking, and the decision making process, every process of it, because it's about their future as well. And they should also have more trust, more access to resources and things like that. I think that's the very main thing young people need.
I completely agree, Ida. And as we're kind of coming to a close today, I wanted to, talk about what we can leave the viewers and the listeners with. So, what gives you hope today?
So the thing that keeps me going on is when I see local, with the voices of local users like me and others being represented, being added up to a greater impact, and also when our works, it can be little, it can be small, or even great work, but when our works in our respective local backgrounds combine to create a very meaningful and beautiful global impact, I think that's what keeps me going, because it shows me that when we are doing more, we can achieve more as well.
Yeah, when we do more, we can achieve more as well. This is very inspirational. And I'm just wondering, Ida, if you are in a room full of young people, let's say it's a huge conference, what message would you share with these young people and also those who are listening to this podcast? What would you tell them?
To every young people, and even to those listening to this podcast right now, I would say start where you are now. Like the knowledge you have, whether it is little, whether it is very great, does not matter. Just start with what you have. And start with what you have. Make sure to create something meaningful with the situation, any situation you are in, and also do it passionately as well. So let me add a little personal experience here. I remember when I first joined Act for Food, I knew I didn't have enough skill and knowledge about the sector, but I joined anyways, and I still don't think I have enough knowledge as well, because I believe there's no such thing as enough knowledge. It's as you keep progressing, as you keep working, and as you keep participating, that you have and you build skills. So to the young people, I would say just begin with what you have, just start with what you have, and you will be amazed by how you are progressing.
Fantastic. That's a very powerful way to end and to conclude. I like that. Just start with what you have. And learning never ends. Knowledge, you can never have enough knowledge. You keep on learning. Thank you so much, Aida. Today we've heard that there's a reminder that food systems transformation is not just about policies or programs. Sometimes it begins with you or me or any other young person in a kitchen, choosing to create something out of scarcity. And that's the real trademark of a resilient person.
And Ida's story reminds us that even in the most difficult circumstances, there is always space for creativity, compassion, and leadership.
Yeah. Ida, thank you very much for your courage, your work, and your voice that you've shared with us today. It's really, really impressive, and we wish you all the best with your initiatives and your work.
Thank you for having me too.
And to our listeners, thank you for being a part of this conversation.
Until next time, this is Bite the Talk. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. Stay safe and eat healthy.